do introductions just so when we put this film up, people know who's who. My name's John Boutte. I chair the Southwest Common Council, and I'm also sit on the 19th Ward Schools Committee. I sit on that with John, and I chair the Education Committee, which is what this group is. Why don't we go this way?
I'm Mike Dondorfer. I'm the AmeriCorps Vista serving with 4-H of Monroe County.
Eleanor Coleman. I'm with Family Assemblies Youth Build program and also on Rotary Southwest.
John Lang, 19th Ward Schools Committee, Education Committee. John already covered that. Okay.
As John's been working on all this stuff since we both jumped into it in 2012, so it's been a long haul.
Okay. I am Deb Washington, principal at Nathaniel Rochester Community School number 3.
Great.
I'm Kristen Babcock. I am a 19th Ward resident and parent of 2 students in the district.
Okay, great.
Brian Babcock, 19th Ward resident, delegate, and parent.
Okay. So we've got our agenda for today. Budget overrun. I'm still trying to really get an accurate picture of how they got into the mess they are in, but needless to say, they're in a lot of trouble right now. And I don't know, has anything come out in the last 3 days that I've missed in the paper?
I haven't seen anything. I mean, the one article in the paper saying where the polls really were, where it was overspent, I thought it was a relatively good summary. But I haven't seen anything.
When you were at the budget meeting, that was more about like a budget training.
Yeah, the town hall that they had last week, but they didn't really offer any insight into what's coming
Even
and
what to look
what
for,
happened.
yeah.
It was like, this is the budget book. This is what's in the budget book from last year.
And was this the meeting on the 11th there, or?
The one that Beatrice LeBron had it at.
Yeah.
At East.
Whatever, last Thursday.
Oh, at East. No, I didn't make it to the one at East.
Whatever that date was.
Okay. Yeah, I wish I'd been able to get over there, but yeah, so it's been hard to say for sure. Do you have anything new on that?
No, at my last principal's meeting, the superintendent was in Albany lobbying for more funds. Haven't heard anything of that yet. And if we don't receive any more funds, additional cuts are projected.
Yes. Okay. The Rochester Coalition for Public Education, I just traded emails with Dan Dermesich. There was a meeting. Did you go to the meeting on the 19th, John, with Bronson?
Yeah.
Ah, fantastic. Can you give us...
See how my memory is. So it was a small group with Harry, and he's been supportive of the district probably more than any other legislature guy, person. And so he was looking at the different options that they're pursuing and trying to actually give some of the overhanging political items to be aware of. What he was going to continue to push in is not do a 1-year plan, but at least hopefully a 5-year plan. So if you looked at the finances of the district and said, this is the things I have to fix, you can't do it in 1 year. Okay? And so you come up a year from now and they look for another superintendent and do crazy stuff like that. And so what we were encouraged to do was to send a letter to Cuomo saying you need to do for more than a 1-year deal. We're impressed with the superintendent we brought in. We don't want to lose him before he'd like to go. That's the case. But keep him for at least several years. He would like to get the budget thing over so we get back into the classroom. So from that standpoint, I thought it was pretty good. And Bronson could lay out the political side of it pretty well.
Is he's trying to get a commitment from Dave then, or?
Yeah. To get it in somebody's budget, whether it's Cuomo's budget or something like that. It has to be Cuomo's.
Yeah.
And really work for having a multi-year plan, not a single year. That's the condensed version.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I hadn't seen any minutes come out from the team yet on that, and neither had Dan. He just got back to me before I came here. But yeah, Bronson has been very good to work with. He seems really interested in helping the city school district. But getting everybody in Albany on board is, the thing.
Getting him back in and continue in Albany might be a struggle.
Yeah, and that's another issue.
He didn't get endorsed by the party.
Yeah, I thought that was crazy.
Well, you gotta look at where the person came from.
Yeah.
That takes a little of the mystery out of it.
Yeah, was it a mystery? Just crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, before we continue, why don't you introduce yourself? We missed you the first time.
Sure, my name is Alicia Ward, and I manage the SUNY Attain Lab located at the now pronounced Trenton and Pamela Jackson Art Center at 485 North Road.
You're
And SUNY
trying to
Attain-
confuse us.
Yes. So SUNY Attain provides computer-based job skills training, academic enrichment, and life skills.
Great, thank you. Sure we'll have a few questions when we get to the pre-K part of the agenda here. There's a meeting coming up March 2nd with Adam Urbanski for the Rochester Coalition for Public Education. They had planned on getting together with him yesterday, but that got canceled because a lot of the coalition members had conflicting meetings. So next week we'll get a chance to talk with him and see what, if anything, he's saying he could do to help sweeten the pie to get Albany to move on getting some money, because now the other thing that relative to unions is item number 4 there, ROAR, the Rochester Organization of Rank and File Educators. And they are the RTA and Bente and one other union which escapes me right now, but they seem to be, asking for the right things. They're looking for getting total funding for the district, all the foundation aid that Albany owes us, and I don't think they're strictly looking at let's keep every teacher in there that we can, as much as we should be funding the district properly, and Albany's been really shortchanging us for several years now. So they are looking at having a strike on the 16th, not on the 16th, on the 6th of March. And a lot of the meeting was aimed at discussing that. If you look, I'll send this out again today after the meeting, but it's on the online agenda also. Under 4 there's that YouTube video, and that's a video of the meeting they had on the 21st. on February 21st. I went there, got there maybe 15 minutes late because I was coming from another meeting. But it was quite a good meeting. We had 2 of the school board members there. Amy was there. She didn't say too much, but Natalie Shepard was there, and she was quite vocal about, supporting the things that the group is trying to do in terms of getting proper funding and so forth. She couldn't really endorse a strike because that would be kind of going a little too far, but she certainly had a lot of support for the objectives that the group had. And we also had Sean Smith, who is a parent from the Southwest here, and she's got a parents group going. Very dynamic young lady. She runs a gym. Anyways, she was there, and she gave a passionate plea for getting parent involvement. There were a lot of parents at the meeting who spoke in support of what the Roar group was trying to accomplish. We'll see how it goes. I think that one of the things they pointed out is in some states the legislature so up and down, there was no way they were going to be able to find money for putting more money into the schools to meet teacher demands, and they went out on strike for a day or two, and suddenly they found $500 million.
Yep.
So we'll see how that goes. A lot of how successful they are will be a function of how much support do they have from parents in the community, because they have to have support to really have credibility that this is going to last for a while. Now, right now, they're just saying one day, but
What if they wanted to do it before some sort of thing that's happening in Rochester on that Saturday, right?
yeah, I think there are some other things that there was a good article in the paper. Justin was there, he was leaving as I was arriving, and he wrote up a pretty decent article on it. But the thing they're trying to do is, you have to find some way to take care of the kids, because if teachers aren't there and you can't send the kids to school, what centers are they going to go to where they're taken care of? Because a lot of parents can't afford to take a day off from work,
Right.
just because Johnny or Susie can't be at school. So there's a lot of planning that they still had to do to really
That's why
be.
I chose March 6th, because it's half day.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that was half day. So anyways, that's if you haven't yet, you can take a look at that video and get a feel for the ambiance and what were people saying. Were they enthusiastic or sitting on the line, on the fence?
So is there anything in the communication to the principals that you can tell us about?
Nothing. Nope. We've heard rumors of this, but nothing has been set up from the district.
Certainly RTA is not itself is not backing this. This is kind of a wildcat strike sort of thing, and it's a combination of members from 4 unions that are together putting this on. So we'll have to see how that unfurls. Depending on who you talk to, people at first, they have their own vision of what is this about. But I don't know. I came away feeling that it may be something that's necessary, assuming that it gets executed in the best way possible.
So you're thinking that the end result is you want to get more attention from the budget? and relief from Albany? Is that the purpose of this?
Yeah, they were talking, and of course I don't know all the players who were there, but Eamon Scanlon was there, and several of the teachers that are involved with the Rochester Coalition for Public Education were there, and so a lot of the people that I knew who were there seemed very much in support. And we have our East Side contingent just arrived. Let's see, why don't we go around and have you introduce yourself so everybody else here.
Dorothy Barhead. Mary Coffey.
Janie Anderson. Holly McCarthy.
Okay, and you're all four from neighborhoods on the east side, and they've been here at several meetings so far in the past 2 or 3 months. Welcome again. So we'll see how how the 6th rolls out. It hopefully there'll be. Well, we have to see. I would be amazed if after the 6th suddenly Albany showers us with all the money they should have supplied to the district, but I don't know. It's also an election year, so there's a lot of people are going to think twice before they.
That's what it is. The legislative breakfast is here on the 7th. So
Yeah.
they want to sit down. And,
What is that?
Could you repeat that?
the legislative breakfast is in Rochester on the 7th, where there will be state and federal politicians here to, according to this, help make some decisions. So
What happens on the 7th? Legislators? What?
there's some legislators here in town for a legislative breakfast in Rochester on March 7th.
Are you saying the federal?
Probably state, I think.
What does it say there?
Rochester BOE Legislative Breakfast is an opportunity for state and federal
State and
politicians.
federal,
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
No, this is something that citizens wouldn't be
Yeah, I'd like to
present
know
at, they
that.
wouldn't attend, it just for.
Does it say where?
Um,
Not on there, it doesn't.
well, doesn't jump out at me, but I'm incredibly terrible at reading fast.
What is that paper that?
This was something that they distributed at the meeting that kind of was intended to call people's attention to the meeting, that to the strike and to the various things that they're doing. The meeting was conducted by the
Union?
the union, the people who are heading up ROAR, which is a combination of, volunteers from all 3 unions, and they're there without their union's blessing. But they were trying to give an idea to the people at the meeting what they're trying to do, and take a look at that video, and it's most of it is pretty understandable. The sound, it was a room about at least 2 times the size of this, and maybe 3 times the size. Fortunately, the acoustics were pretty good, so you're only having to go through and adjust for the loud person next to you not drowning out everything, and people on the other end of the room, try to adjust the sound so that they're understandable. But it's came out reasonably well.
We heard coming in on the radio that they're going to have to vote on the school board about nonprofits having preschool, or the public education having the preschools. I mean, and we discussed let the best man have the
education, whether it's public or nonprofits, because it's all about the children.
There's
Yeah.
a budget issue with that, though, I think, at least when that first came about. The city school district was saying that it cost $1,000 more.
Yeah,
Or no, the opposite way. The nonprofits were saying that it actually would cost per student at least $1,000 more to bring the students back into the RCSD facilities versus keeping them contracted out to the nonprofits. Who knows the truth
Yeah.
of this though?
And we talk about money in that, and we talk about teachers' jobs, and we talk about public schools, and we talk about charter schools. The main thing we should be talking about is children.
yeah, and
And what is going to be the best thing for the children of Rochester?
and I think that's, what the various camps are talking about, but they're all looking
Well,
at it.
I hear a lot of special interests.
Mm-hmm.
But they said there's a conflict of interest on the school board because 2 school board members are part of nonprofits. So
Yeah, that's a major.
I have much information on
Yeah,
charters.
I mean, it's just statistically how they're
Yeah,
good.
Where's the data coming from?
Yeah.
That, well, I think it was primarily from studies that the district has done on, if they look at students that come to kindergarten in the district from Rochester City School District pre-Ks versus private pre-Ks. The private pre-Ks are more likely to go to the charter schools. And
But you'd hope the placement would have the data.
yeah,
Right.
the
This is the first time I'm hearing of the data, and I'm wondering what is the retention? Because we get so many students that transfer back into the district
Right.
from the charter school.
Right.
yeah, I don't know how many end up coming back into the district after that, but right now all the charters, from what I could make out from listening to the presentation they did over at School 44, and that video is also up on YouTube. I don't have it listed on here, but Terry Dade came over to 44 and gave a presentation of why they would like to close 44 as an elementary, transfer the kids to other schools of choice that they would like to go to, and then renovate the school a bit so that it's suitable for pre-Ks. Part of it already is because they've got several pre-Ks there, but get the whole school in shape so that they can all handle pre-Ks. And we had a lot of questions, teachers and myself were saying, gee, why don't you, there's some extra space in that school, because right now they've got a low attendance. I shouldn't say, they have, the district has been trying to basically kill that school for a while
For a
now.
while.
And so they've got one strand, and there's even a hole bubbling up through on that one strand because they had closed down kindergarten one year. So that's bubbling up through there. And those poor teachers have seen so much. It's really sad. And the thing that he explained is we'd like to have the pre-Ks here. When I asked, why don't you, if you're going to move the kids from here to somewhere else has got room for doing some pre-Ks, why not try to do it that way?
The biggest concern was, of course, budgeting and money. And so with collapsing 44 and 57 and making them into pre-K, the funding comes from a different source. So the funding is no longer out of the district A fund or TAP fund, but then it's out of pre-K fund, which is not connected to the district overhead costs.
That's
So
right.
is that why they're thinking of doing that?
Yep.
Yeah, and with this idea of retaining more students after pre-K, then you can get more funding because you have a larger enrollment base. So that's like
Exactly.
the whole.
It makes
Isn't
Yeah,
a
it
lot
does
of
make
this
sense.
really
It makes great
sense?
sense.
Given the situation that we have, everybody waiting for 35 million from
Yeah.
Albany and all that. Something big is gonna happen one way or the other.
of
It's
course.
gonna make, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be in any way dismissive of people that are affiliated with a particular school or that work there or have great attachment to it, but everybody's gonna be hurting everywhere pretty much. So stuff like this is gonna look like small peanuts when you're talking about 800 people losing their jobs. I mean, there's gotta be some pain and it's gotta be spread around. Certainly that doesn't mean people aren't gonna still advocate for what they want and hope that they could be one of the lucky ones to hold on to something,
The
but
better ones.
it's not gonna be pretty.
It's not.
No, and this is more of a long-term though game plan to try to raise enrollment and
Of
increase
course.
funding over a longer term. This isn't how like
But in the
a short.
short
But
term,
it's a
all these things,
competition between
we might be
charter
shut
schools
down.
and public schools.
Oh yeah,
Right.
yeah. We need to for sure.
But it should be, and I think the state just closed down urban choice.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's not acceptable, which was actually scored higher than the
they had
public
problems with their
schools.
administration.
And so then I think whatever, if it is a bad public school, then it closes as a nothing's wrong with competition. And if it's a bad charter school, it closes, the good will rise. What do they feel the preschool training have helped children? I'm very much of an advocate for preschool. Mine went to Montessori at Nazareth Trinity years ago. How do they feel are the children coming out ahead as a preschool as it is today, or?
I think as far as performance in the private versus public pre-Ks, they're on par. At least that's,
Yeah.
that's what I've heard.
And what does that mean? What does par mean?
They're doing very well.
The children are performing well.
It's the part of the city school district that is nationwide renowned for, all this
Right.
pre-K stuff that we've got going here
And
is
their programming
known throughout the country.
Good.
Phenomenal.
So are
Something that we're doing right.
Good.
We are.
So why don't you leave it alone?
Because they're trying to fend off
Need to
the charter schools from so to speak, poaching the students. That's the whole thing.
Yes, and that's what's happening.
As long as
Right.
the children
No,
are
no, no.
doing well.
Well, that's not how it works though. See, if you poach kids into the charter schools, then what you've left behind in the public schools are the kids that don't have the resources and means to get into the charter schools, and then the charter schools turns away the kids that they can't afford to educate, and then end up back in the public schools.
Well,
Exactly.
and getting every child preschool is vital. Vital. Those
Yeah.
are the most important.
And we can do that better if we can get rid of some of these charters. that are-
Yeah, and one of the things also is having 3-year-old pre-K versus 3 and 4-year-old pre-K. I think the city has been ahead on that. But Alicia, you want to say something?
So I just wanted to add to what has been said. It seems to me that the strategy that the city school district is, the approach that they're trying to take is that if they can get students in pre-K to be a part of the city school district, then parents will gain an affinity and an understanding of what city school district education can give their children. If you don't try it, then you won't know if you like it. So I think it might be
that's the
the strategy to introduce them to, if you want your child, the city school district is the purse for the charter school. So the money for the charter school comes from the district. And if they can hold on to that money, which they desperately need, at the beginning of a child's education, and then if the parent later decides to send their child to a charter school, at least they held on to that purse string that is attached to that child for the child's pre-K years.
That's
Yes.
exactly right.
And what is important is the child is the one that's on the street.
But they're doing fine in the
But
city
the child,
schools.
if the child is the string, the purse string, if the child, I believe the district's motive and direction is if we start them off with us and we start them off right, then the parent will hopefully get an understanding that we do a good job, we do well for your child, and then keep their child longer within the district.
They do well for
It's
pre-K and elementary.
It's been a failure. Our city schools have failed our children. We gotta uprise, so whether it's through, it is today, or if it's through charter. We have to do for the child. We have one of the lowest in the nation, and we have to raise it whatever way we can. Preschool is an excellent way to
But we
raise it.
have, the city school district has not failed students at the pre-K and elementary level.
Right,
They
if all
have
things are
not
equal,
failed
why mess
You
with
mean the
it? Now, later
testing
on, you can
levels are
go,
all, the testing levels in our children in elementary are on par or up?
That's just, so that's just one measurement of achievement when we talk about
Yeah,
tests.
thank you.
And we cannot take the test and say, based on these tests, our students have failed. And that's just a huge disadvantage to our students to say that, because we have so many extremely great students who do a great job, and the standardized test doesn't show that.
I think you should
Okay.
go standardized.
We failed
So-
our children. We have
So
failed our
when you
children.
say we have failed our children, that says that these kids are not going to be successful when they leave the city school district, which is an untruth. That's an
How
untruth.
many do we graduate at the end?
But even
And
if we
how many
don't,
get
so
into
how many-
colleges and finish at the end?
But graduation and getting into college is not a determination that you're going to be successful. It's
But
not a determining
It's
factor.
one of the factors.
It's one of them. It's one of them. You're absolutely right. It's one of them. But it's not the end all be all. Because we have several students who have not graduated who are extremely successful. But we don't hear those stories.
What we hear
What we hear is what the
is
state measures
concerns
the
us.
district by
It concerns us.
and feed to the public eye what they want the schools to be measured by. And of course, we have to go with that. Why? Because we get state funding.
can we say that the city school district does a good job raising up the students in pre-K and elementary? After that, there are issues. And frankly, I know there's a big debate about standardized testing and all that, but if your business is education and you have to show the world a measure and you're going to have a job, not every employer is going to have time for you to sit down and talk about your personal portfolio. They might want to see, did you graduate? Is this person educable? Can I train this person? They need to have something to measure. So it isn't like people are against public education. On that measure, they really, I think, are failing, because if you have so few students graduating, once they're graduating, if they are not on a path towards something else, if they're having a gap year and another gap year,
But how do you know what path they're on? Who follows? Who tracks
but
that?
the thing, if they are not employed or seeking, and wait a minute, and the part about it's okay to graduate but not be college ready, you know what? That's really not okay.
No.
That is pushing the problem off to the next place. I used to work at a college, whole divisions designed to take all the people, whether they are international refugees or refugees from the city school district's failure, to get them to college readiness.
Right.
All this money is being plowed in to transitional studies, and it comes out of their financial aid. And guess what? When you get to a certain point where you've taken so many of these non-credit get me ready for college classes, once you're actually ready, you might be having to pay a lot of it more out of your own pocket because you've used up your financial aid with all this, so to speak, remedial education. Now, I think it's absolutely necessary and vital that they have that. You can't just toss people to the wind because they're not at a certain point, at a certain chronological year. Yes, you have to help them. But if there's a way to help them sooner within the school district that's supposed to be raising them up, why can't we say and call them out? You're wrong. You didn't get it. You are not getting them where they need to be. When you go out into the world, not everybody's going to be all sweet and kind and no. People want results. It's a hard world. You have to be able to compete. People are not always going to grade you and give you extra points for what street or zip code you were raised in. Some people will, some people won't. But you need to be able to perform.
And you know
Yeah,
what?
one of the things.
Most of us here have the opportunity to go to good schools.
Yes.
And therefore the opportunity to get good jobs. And therefore the opportunity to climb economically, to buy houses where we want, to do what we want with our lives. But unfortunately, this does not seem to happen in Rochester, New York.
Remember, the poverty rate, the child poverty rate is the highest in the nation.
And they will never get out because they do not have the opportunity of good schools and good jobs to climb out of that poverty. You're
can I just share
absolutely
something?
right.
A lot of that is a funding issue, and the funding issue in our public schools, and this is proven across the country, that the charter school model sucks funding from public education. It sucks funding from public education. We are paying as taxpayers to fund schools that when they decide this child costs too much to educate, they send those children back to the public school. And that makes, after they've already gotten the funding for that child.
I don't, whoever does the best job should be get the money. That's
But we
all.
can't
I
do
don't
the best
care.
job because they're sucking the funding from our school.
Where did you get this information
Boy, I'm glad we got somebody who's enthusiastic.
The school district had to be failing these kids before there even was such a...
Let's hang on a second.
Where did you get the information?
Yeah.
I'm talking about where did you get that information?
This is documented information. You can go get this information.
I got kids that graduated from charter schools and they went to college and they're able to pass the grades. And they're almost like...
Yeah, that's anecdotal evidence. You have to look at the statistics.
I know a lot of kids that graduated from city schools, go to college for 1 year, they can't even do the college work. And what she said is true.
Same thing happened with
I
kids
know.
who graduate from charter
Yeah.
But,
schools.
and another thing I want to say
private
too,
schools.
and I've been dealing with city school for 40 years, okay? And what I'm hearing now, and the city school done failed me, I'm disappointed in them, because right now I'm hearing that you want pre-K. What I'm seeing and thinking, you're gonna use them to get money to do something else, okay? But how you know they're gonna continue to stay in that school, in city schools? Most parents let them go for 1 or 2 years, then move them to other schools.
Right. Looking for better and better. What's wrong?
And I don't
with
blame them. I
quality?
did the same like thing. My kids go to 52 school, but that's a pretty good school, and they are learning. And all of them graduate from, and they all going to college. But some of these schools is not doing well. And I've been dealing with them for 40 years. And I see how they done went behind, and they been teachers, and they want to do this, that, and they got all these special kids in these city school districts going to other school. Holy childhood, every school, every other school but city schools. And I know that for a fact.
And we're one of the lowest in the nation, and there's poverty through the whole nation.
Yes.
Dorothy.
Yes. And our kids, they,
Yeah,
Child poverty.
come on, speak up.
And perhaps I'm going back some years, but I think I need to go back those years. When I went to school, we had one teacher. from preschool up to 6th grade. One teacher. She taught the whole class. One teacher. Why? Because she was concerned, she was committed, and she taught those kids. But today in our school, we have so many administration, so many different teachers. Our kids are confused. This teacher teach one thing, that one teach another one, and then someone else teach another one. So our kids are completely confused. They don't know really which way to go. I had an excellent teacher from kindergarten, when we say, all the way up to 6th grade. The same teacher with all the kids in one room. And she was an excellent teacher. She was the great-grandmother of Felicia Richard. But let me tell you something. We as a people now, we're making our education for our kids too business-wise. Business-wise. It's not about being business-wise. It's about being down so that our kids can get an education.
The charter schools, though, are a business. Right.
I beg your pardon?
The charter schools, they are a business. You're saying you've
I'm
made
not
it too
speaking
business.
about. I'm not speaking about charter school. I'm speaking about any school.
Mm-hmm.
We need to focus on our kids, not the business. If we put our minds on the kids and how our kids should be educated and focus on it, forget about the money.
It needs oversight, the whole thing.
Forget about the money. But you know what? I was taught charity begins at home. I have a 3-year-old great-grandson. He can count. He can say his ABCs, and not only in English, he can say it in Spanish, because charity began it at home and spread abroad. But we as grown-ups, we don't understand what our kids are going through, because we are so busy business-wise. Come down to the earth and talk to our kids. What do you need? What are we supposed to do? We make all the decisions. Our kids don't have nothing to say. And then we hire the teachers, and the teachers don't give a John Brown. All they thinking about is the money. They don't care whether or not our kids are educated or not.
Well,
Too many different teachers. You got a teacher for pre-K, a teacher for first grade, a teacher. Everybody is teaching the same thing. Everybody teaching a different thing, a different thing, a different thing. How do you expect our kids to keep up with all that?
I feel that the tone in the room is such that, and I get it, that there are many people who are against charter schools because they are passionate advocates for the city school district. That's all well and good. But overall, the whole situation of educating children in the public schools here, if we could take the argument or discussion about charter schools out of the mix and focus and look on some other things about why Johnny can't read, why Johnny can't do this, why Johnny can't do that. It's not the only, you can't make that, it would be magical if the charter schools were the only problem that had to be solved to get a kid educated in the city of Rochester, coming from a home of poverty, where maybe their mother works, maybe their mother's a crackhead. Sorry, it's the reality. So let's, maybe there are other things we should be acknowledging, or you people who work in education could be discussing, and don't just blame everything on a charter school. I have no love for Betsy DeVos and all her ilk, but if I were in the shoes of somebody who had a kid who did well in city school district, pre-K and elementary, but then when it was coming time to transition, I knew that the choices of the schools they might be going to are schools that on the metrics are shaky, and somebody says, look, here, you can go to blah, blah, blah charter school, and you see the kids there are doing well and moving on. Of course I would do the thing that I think is best for my child. I'm not going to sacrifice them on the altar of some argument about public schools versus charter schools. I would do the best for my child, get them where they can be college ready.
And they're all our children.
And you're gonna tell me that's wrong because you
We're
work in
not-
a public school or you believe this or that? I wouldn't listen to you for 1 minute.
Listen, you know,
Right.
listen, take a look at the video that I've got there, the discussion at the school board. And there were some very passionate school board members who were saying, as the pre-K schools that are, you know, in private hands, we want to make sure that that we keep what is our jewel in the crown of the city school district is the pre-K program, and the private ones which are under, you know, the district reviews what's going on in all the pre-Ks, so they've been working under the guidance of the city school district administration in terms of what they offer in the pre-Ks. The thing that they're running into is that for whatever reason, if you look at students that come out of the district pre-Ks versus the ones that come out of the private pre-Ks, they're losing a lot more kids to charter schools from the public pre-Ks. They also, the other thing that is an issue is when they started pre-Ks in Rochester, they didn't have the room to put all of them in city school district buildings. So they took advantage of people, you know, be it the Y, or I think you've got a pre-K over at
Braden Street?
Braden Street?
I think it's probable.
Yeah.
I know they have a daycare center, so it's quite probable.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but you know, there are all sorts of pre-Ks, and they've been working with the city school district. They have a very good, I forget her name, I'm terrible with names, but she is the person who's really been pushing pre-Ks, and yeah, what, do you remember her name?
Robin, for the district?
Yeah,
Yeah, Robin Hooper.
Robin Hooper. And she's in that video that I've got there. She's answering questions that the board members had. You know, they've done a lot of the curriculum planning for how are those programs going to work. They were the ones who pushed to get 3-year-old pre-K, because one of the things that we're facing in the district is you need to try to help parents who are trying on the one hand to have a job somewhere, but you know, they've got kids at home they need to take care of. By having a 3-year-old pre-K, all day pre-K, you know, that's the other issues. That gives them a chance to get a job and bring some money in.
But it's good formative years for children too. It's
Yes.
vital learning years.
Yes, and you have to have programs that are well geared for the kids, you know.
What happened to the Montessori program that was brought into the
Isn't there
city?
one at Franklin? It's still there.
There's one over, it's over at Freddie Thomas right now.
Oh, it's Freddie Thomas?
Yeah.
It's still Montessori, but it's inside the Freddie Thomas.
Oh.
Is it the European or American Montessori? Do you know?
I'm not sure.
Is
You need
there
a
a
lot
cost?
of training for,
They do extensive training.
Do they,
Yes,
do you,
but it is
do you pay for
excellent.
pre-K? You don't pay for it, right?
But let me, one thing I wanted to touch on relative to School 44, and we've had we've struggled a lot to try to keep 44 alive and open. So it's with a certain amount of sadness, the thought of closing it and turning it into pre-Ks. But right now we're facing some major budget issues in terms of what we need to do. And closing it as an elementary school, relocating the children and opening it as a pre-K center has some financial advantages, because the alternative may be to just close it and let the city do whatever they want with the building, and it'll either become apartment buildings or it'll become a charter school. And I really would like to see that building stay in the city school district portfolio of buildings, because maybe 6 years from now or 10 years from now, as we hopefully see a surge in population in the area again, because we have to remember, we're living right now after a major financial golden cow, or golden goose, I guess. Eastman Kodak was pumping $1 billion or more a year into the economy here, and that's gone away. And whether you worked at Kodak or umpteen companies that depended on Kodak for their business, you know, it was, if they were supplying $1 billion, then the companies that were living off of them were again also providing wages for people. So it's been.
What is the future of vocational training in our public schools, which is very vital?
Yeah,
I think this is a discussion I think we have another time.
Yeah, we
Got
should.
a lot of things on this agenda.
Yeah.
You don't think vocational training?
Oh yeah, no,
is
it's
worth
a very important one.
But nobody has any information here. And if you want to talk about
Oh,
it,
all right.
go
Well,
Yeah.
and get some
yeah, all right.
Let's we'll put it on the agenda for next week, and we'll see if we.
I mean,
And
I can read Shakespeare, but I couldn't fix a car.
I know.
And
So
someone can fix a car and fix a television way over me, but they got that
Every kid
skill.
is not graduating going to college.
Okay, Joe.
And they'll make more money.
Yeah. Joe, who arrived a little late. Joe is principal of School 29.
What did you just say about kids graduating not going to
I
college?
say every kid who graduates is not going to college.
But if they want, they have a choice.
They do,
And
but,
once they go.
but reality
they
is
will.
every kid that graduate will not go to college.
But
That's
if
We
reality.
know that.
But we're
Okay.
saying.
All right, she just asked me what I said, so.
And that's where
But
vocational
I'm
schools
saying
matter, yeah.
We have failed also in giving vocational training. I'm originally from Buffalo where vocational schools started.
We still have
And
a
some
vocational
people are
school.
very
Yeah,
skilled,
it's coming back up though.
very skilled.
We'll put Edison on the agenda for next time,
We need more.
and we'll
Edison
see if we can get some people here who have been working with that,
Right.
so that we can get a good feel for where were things when they were going well, because it used to be top notch.
I'm a graduate from Edison.
Yeah, okay, great.
So
Excuse me,
I
can I
know
say
what
one
it
thing? I'm
was.
gonna say show. I'm here as a parent, grandparent too. But a lot of the parents in the city are still worried, just like we are. They may not be here, but they're concerned about
Oh,
their
sure.
children. So we don't, I mean, we can do it another time, but don't sweep nothing under the table. Places so we can do it another time.
Mhm.
Because people are very frustrated, and this march coming, I already knew about this march already before I came because I heard it on WXXI. So people are really worried about their children. Everybody don't want their child to get out of school, have babies. That's what they say. Everybody don't want their children selling drugs. People want their children to do positive things. Everybody out there don't think the parents really want that. It's just something that happened because they don't have nothing else to do. Okay? So we're concerned about our children.
Yeah.
Our children.
No, and if you look at the video that we had from Roar there were parents there who said specifically that, and who pointed out that if you want to have parents at these meetings, you have to go where the parents are, because most of them don't have a ride to get here. The person said, how many of you brought some other parent from your neighborhood here? You know, you drove here, and it's a piece of cake. The meeting was over on North Winton.
Right.
But if, you know, a poor parent in the 19th Ward who has to take 2 buses to get to that meeting, they aren't going to be able to do it. So that's a big issue, and it's one that we...
And morally, we are all obliged to watch out for our children, and they've been not
Yeah.
taken care of well.
Let me ask a quick question. Joe, did you get a chance to get a hold of Shalonda?
I'm gonna wait till tomorrow.
Okay.
See what happens, and then I'll talk more about that after that.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, I really hold off on that side.
All righty.
Tomorrow's vote, and then all right.
Very good. Joe is, for anybody, he's principal at School 29, so. And we have to really go on to the next, again, we skipped over 5, but each one of those, you know, 10A was the first meeting they had this year at School 10, 10B, 10C. And then School 16, there are 3 meetings that I attended. I missed one because it was the same night as the one over at 10. And then there were several meetings at School 19, and then there's Wilson Foundation Academy. They're camera shy there, so I haven't been recording them. But each one of those are, there's about an hour meeting, and I'm juggling these things, the camera, trying to record things, and then go home and spend 3 or 4 hours processing the whole thing. So there's a lot of, besides the fact that you got 10 people or so at these meetings that have been working hard, and these are community engagement teams, there's just a ton of work that people are putting into the district, trying to improve their schools, parents that are on these committees that are trying to do what they can, and there's a tremendous amount of work we need to do to fix this elephant, but it's an elephant, and it's, well, we were on the community engagement team together last spring when she was working at School 10. And you can watch some of the, well, they're not on here, but there are some other meetings from last year that she was one of our video stars.
Do they take meeting notes at any of those CET meetings?
Oh, yeah.
Take minutes?
Yeah, they take meeting notes, and
And the principal sends them out.
the principal sends them out to the people.
Would you want to get onto their email list?
Yeah.
Yeah, can you put our,
Yeah, we can get a hold of, who's the gal who's the coordinator of the community school transition there. Overall there.
I don't want to take any more of your time on that. I'll send you a.
Yeah, I'll
Kelly Briggs.
Kelly Briggs, right. I'll try to get a hold of her on that. Okay.
Just one note on School 16 did our survey. We met on Monday before the break, and the person took the notes that we all had questions on it, changed it, distributed it out to the kids, and had stuff back on Friday. I couldn't believe we had surveys come back that fast.
when were they handed out?
Probably Wednesday or Thursday. Wow. There weren't that many days between Monday and Friday. No.
The people at these schools, and these are all the schools that I've got there in those various numbered entries. Those are receivership schools. They're being transitioned to community schools and modeling themselves pretty much on like what School 16 is doing. I don't know if you've looked at School 16, but they've been really working hard with Katerina Leonino, who's the principal there, to kind of recreate the atmosphere they had back in the 90s when it was renowned throughout the state as a community school. And we're trying to get the other schools that, everybody these days would like to have community schools, and we're trying to work towards that. I say we, I don't work for the city school district, I'm a retired engineer at Kodak, and I got involved with this because they tried closing the school over on Post Avenue, School 16, and John and I rallied and got the troops out, and we walked pickets and whatnot, for that school, and then School 10, which was also getting closed. And so, we're coming at it from the parent standpoint. But I also realize that, John and I are lucky. We're retired. We can spend all the time in the world doing this sort of stuff. Today's parents are trying to hold down 2 jobs, try to keep food on the table, and they don't have a car sitting in the driveway. I mean, there's a whole issue with poverty in the district that is a real thing, and we have to see what we can do to improve that.
The school district has those children for a long period of time every day, so it is important.
Yeah.
It is very, very important.
I guess the important thing is that we need to focus more on getting teachers that are really, really sold out to our kids. We have a lot of teachers that is there just for the money, and they're not doing anything for our kids. So we need to find teachers that really, really have a heart to train and teach our kids.
Do you think that, my question, what would be the metric by which such a passionate teacher would be evaluated? Because we hear that quite often, but...
Well, me, myself, before you go any further,
Yeah.
my evaluation will be over 60 days. If I don't see the kids moving no place, they gotta go. Being real, they gotta get up out of there. Because you know what? You're not doing anything to help my child come to where he needs to go.
Maybe they could look at somebody's outside
I'm
activities
serious.
and
Back in the older days, I mean, you didn't have all of this.
I think
What do you have was
that's another thing to put on the agenda for a coming meeting. We have to talk a bit about evaluation of teachers in a way that makes sense. And we've got two principals here. I'm sure they have input that we can get into, but we need to move on the agenda for
And
today.
this tenure, we should discuss this tenure.
Yeah, there's a lot to discuss
This is
around
scary.
that.
Yeah, that's very scary.
Put tenure down also. But we do need to make sure we cover some of the other issues.
Contractual, that is all contractual. You don't have RTA in here who has a very strong union.
Oh, yeah, I mean,
Nothing gets done.
But you see, in charter schools, there isn't the unions. Maybe that's why some of them don't have them. Yeah.
You got it.
okay,
Wait just
the
a minute, I
plus.
wanted to say something.
Yes.
Nurses, teachers, doctors, and teachers, all of them, we all sitting around the table here tonight, and you was raised in sodas and all these small places. You come into the city with a different, totally environment of children. Well, my job, I know they have diversity classes. Teach them to learn everybody's culture, and don't just concentrate on poverty. See, poverty been around for a long time. I came up in poverty, okay, from the South, but I survived because I didn't hear the word every day. We did what we had to do. And the doctors that come from India and all those places, most of them people come out, they be doctors. They came from poverty, but they don't dwell on poverty all the time. They let you know you can do all things if you only believe in yourself. But when your self-esteem is stripped down to here, it's hard to bring it up. And that's what in our city school district. I'm not in the city school district, but I'm in the community. Most of the kids, their self-esteem is so low. And if your self-esteem is low, poverty gonna make it worse. So we have to build our children. You have to be able to accept me and learn my way of living and the way I speak and where I go and my surrounding. Because you live out in Brighton, you live out in Pittsburgh, that make a difference. But we all the same. But as people, they don't think that way. So that's one thing that I feel like need to be in the city school district, because I done said in some of their meetings, not like this. And they be trying to learn, but you have to really sacrifice and be meaning that I want to help these children. Look at them like your children. What you want for your child, you should want it for somebody else's child. That's where I look at it like that.
that's true. Yep. And, that's just an example. I found out that School 16 was going to be closing because one of the teachers who lives down the street on Post Avenue called me and said, John, and they're talking about closing School 16, and that's how we heard about it. And I knew her because my wife had volunteered over at the school with her for a few times a few years earlier. So having the teachers live in the city is helpful. It's helpful if the teachers that we have more black teachers in the district so that the kids relate to them more. But there's there are a lot of things that stand in the way. They try very hard to recruit black teachers, but right now, teaching is not considered very fashionable in many circles. And a lot of black students who are doing well in college look at becoming doctors or lawyers, and becoming a teacher, given the way teachers have been treated for a number of years, is not a glamour job. And that's one of the things that's hurting us. Is that what you're...
I mean, not only is it not a glamour job, it's not necessarily a lucrative job until you get to a higher level. So if you have student loan debt and you need to pay off your student loans and entering into a school district that's not going to afford you the income to pay your loans, that just might not be the major, or that might not be the avenue that you want to pursue. When you can take that same degree or the same amount of time and get a degree and have a more lucrative career.
Here for the children.
We all are, I believe. Here for the children.
Yeah, the two of the teachers who are principals at those schools, we've got Monique Silas Lee, who's the principal at School 19, and we've got Cameron Clyburn, principal at School 10. They were going to Wilson when my daughter was going to Wilson. And they are just wonderful principals. I sometimes feel like, my gosh, this is family as I go and work in those schools with, I'm on the CET teams, and I think Monique just moved into the city. She's got something near School 19, I think.
Grandmother used to live.
Yeah, so we do have teachers and principals who have some history in the city, but we need a lot more, and we'd love to get something going that draws teachers into living in the city, whether they're white or black, so that they get more familiar with the environment here.
Did you look into the New York City School District, how they climb up so they really raised the level?
No, we've...
Bloomberg pumped money into them like it was water coming out of the farm.
They have one lady there that started a whole bunch of charter schools there.
Yeah, one of the things that we have to remember, and it's another thing that's going on in the district, is these these tests that have been administered for a number of years now that are intended to evaluate how the teacher is doing. These are tests that are being generated by companies that are making money generating tests for schools. They don't give a damn about whether the kids are really being inspired to learn in the school. They're providing tests, and they sell a bill of goods to the states that say, gee, you take this test, Common Core being a good example of it. Take these tests, you teach them this, and you give the test, and then you're going to be able to evaluate the teacher. But if in the process of doing that, you completely turn the child off to learning things that inspires them, then you've lost half the battle.
Yeah, but they do them all over, so there is a norm that they go
And there is a rebellion throughout the country right now that avoids taking.
Let them know some of the good things people are doing now. So you go in the past, Miller, and then the future. Ms. Parham, a prime example. She got a center over there. She helped so many young people. And then Mr. Florence. There's different people in the city of color are doing good things right now. So you let them see Harriet. They don't know nothing but Harriet. But what done happen? And then they go Martin Luther King came. Because I'm in the history, because I've been reading Sojourner Truth.
Mm-hmm.
So it's time for them to know that happened then. There's a past, there's a future, and there's a right now. I'm present. So we have to educate our kids with history. From that, Harry Tubman, Frederick Douglass, Martin Luther King, Mr. Franklin Florence in Rochester, and many more here, and now somebody at present. So that's where I look at, that's where I teach history. I study history every day. That don't mean I don't love people, but I want to know my history.
So
I know.
one of the things that you can do is on Facebook, Rodney Brown.
Give his name.
Rodney Brown puts on, it's almost a couple of times a week, local heroes. Heroes and sheroes, he calls them. And they are up-to-date people that are living now or
Right
just
now.
recently passed.
Right.
And if you get onto that and follow it on that Facebook page and follow it, you'll get all that information. So we need to figure out how do we get that to the schools or the kids, because it's very recent stuff.
Miss Parham can do it. I'll give her a job right now. She can do it.
How has...
Thank you.
Hey, there she is. My daughter's co-student, the proud principal of School 19. How you doing?
I'm well. How are you all?
Great. Snuck in there and I didn't even see you walking in. We were just talking about, what can we do to enrich the education of young black students, and we talked about the fact that we're trying to put on Harriet, the movie, and we've got pretty close to a full house now, but we could do a second showing if, if you're interested in trying to get students from School 19 involved, and there may be, we do a second showing, and we've got 280 more people that we can put through, and, $150 to do something that good. Hey, I don't have anything better to do with $150 right now.
That's a good thing.
There are things that we need to try to do, but then the question that you folks maybe can answer is, what do we do to let kids know what current heroes we have in the black community are? And we talked about, you've got a community room you're putting in School 19 there, that you're going to decide on who should we be naming it for, and is it some students have made suggestions, and I don't know if anything's been decided yet, but that was one thing that was being done to try to put them in touch with current.
So we opted to have our community room named after someone who is important to our community, and they're still alive as well. Just trying to connect students with current heroes and heroes. So we're in the process of the students. They nominated several people in Rochester, and the students have voted, staff have voted, and tonight we had some parents vote as well. So we should have a name soon.
So there are a lot of things going on, and
One thing for local people, there was years ago on TV, there was a documentary on the race riots here. Did you see Daryl Further in that?
Yeah.
I looked at it and I said, wow, I've known him for a long time, and I never saw that side of him. Really articulate, well-spoken. It would give you an idea.
I think also with our community engagement teams, we meet regular with them, and their engagement with students each and every day, being in the building, connecting with students, helping students understand the professions that they come from, what they're doing, and the impact they have on the lives of them is also another way, at least at School 3, that we are able to help students to understand all the people who work behind the scenes to help them to get what they need and to provide those supports to them.
great.
We just had Baden Street Center nominee and named behind who?
Trenton and Pam Jackson.
That's right. Trent and Pam Jackson.
Joe, do you have something on 29?
Well, we're still supposed to be in the phase 3 for the facilities modernization, but not until not next year, but the following year, so it's 2021. I'm assuming it's gonna get approved this year. Last year, they didn't do it in time, so I spoke with Mike Schmidt. We are starting, by using some of our extended learning funds, we are starting a morning program, which I want to build on for next year. We had 20 students come today whose parents, they live in the neighborhood. They don't get a bus in the morning. The parents have to get to work, and I think if we can build on that at our school next year, I'm hoping we can add more students from our neighborhood to come to our school. That's what a lot of the reasons why parents put their children on buses is to have somewhere to keep them for an hour before they go to work. So that program, I'm really proud of and successful on that one. So that's growing. I want to hopefully build on that. And just the basic, getting ready for our, even though we all may not like testing, we have to get ready for it and trying to tweak a few things and looking at, it is kind of a numbers game, so we're looking at a few subgroups that we want to maybe do a little extra intervention with, even though it's 20 days away, there's still a few days left, we can maybe move the needle a little bit, and that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Okay. Do we?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Actually,
Yes.
your principal, Baldino,
Yes.
Yeah.
the morning program, is that, last year you talked, I think, about the neighborhood school bus?
Well, the walking school,
The
but that's
walking
something
school bus?
John and I
Is
have
that part
been.
of this, or?
No, the children can come as early as 8 o'clock, and we have our parent liaison also comes at 8 o'clock, but there's a person that we were able to find some funding for the rest of the year through our extended learning time funds, because it's still extended learning, it's in the morning, instead of the afternoon. And they come at 8 o'clock, and today there were 20 students, which I was really happy to hear about. He has little activities with them, and they get an early breakfast, which they kind of like, and you go to the cafeteria, so it's...
But are they getting there on their own, or is the district picking them
Well,
up?
one grandmother drops off her two grandchildren because she has to be to work. She walks, she lives in the neighborhood, she's on Child Life. She walks over to the door, at 8 o'clock, we let them in, she goes to work. And things of that nature. Sometimes parents driving there because they're on the way to work.
So the district isn't?
No, these are neighborhood kids.
Okay.
One lady lives on Child Life, right around the corner, so.
Oh, okay.
And we want to keep more of our neighborhood children in the district. It's really not extremely expensive for us to, well, we have the funding right now, but even if I didn't have the funding with extended learning time, I would find a way to get the funding.
Thank you.
Because I have some community funds that I hit our grants.
Did we have something from School 3 or School 19 that you ladies want to?
As far as our modernization or remodernization, we have been pushed back to 2025. We had a huge cut in staff when they had the RIF, but we're able to bounce back and make adjustments and make sure that students are still getting those supports academically, social, emotionally, and the school is still, thriving. We have monthly CET meetings where we meet with our community partners as we are planning for finishing out this year and going into next year to see what supports will be needed for students. And we have our Black History presentation tomorrow, so if anyone wants to come and see what students are doing, titled Unapologetically Me. Please come out. We got one showing at 8:30 and another at 12:45.
Great.
So at 19, we are moving everything forward. Our building was recently remodeled in the front, so it's gorgeous if you're interested in coming over and taking a peek at that. And I'm sorry to you two that you were pushed back. I understand how that feels. We're also working hard to prepare students for testing, and we're ensuring that we have a positive spin on that. So we're doing a lot of pep rallies and a lot of friendly competitions to get students excited about the test. And we're also offering some Saturday school sessions that students are extremely excited about.
Okay.
Catholic Family Center Youth Build.
Yes.
So Mary, technical training.
Yeah, I know.
Right in the neighborhood.
I know.
March 20th is the graduation for this cohort. It's at 1 o'clock in the afternoon at 121 Lincoln.
How many are graduating?
I think there's about 12.
12.
Yeah. And the new cohort will begin April 20th. And they basically learn construction skills, but they're starting to add in a lot more. They've done flooring. After they finish the curriculum, which is mostly carpentry focused, they then go to a Habitat for Humanity home and work there.
That's
And
wonderful.
we have home leasing, Isaac Heating, people that come in and do presentations so that they can like learn that there's other things out there as well.
Have they gotten jobs from this?
Yeah.
You know, years ago, air conditioning and heating and electrical, that was all on the high school level for those that either picked a profession or a trade, whatever, but you had choices. Now, all those courses are at MCC.
Not all, actually. Isaac Heating has set up a
I
training
heard that.
institute. We went and visited it. Gorgeous.
And how
they do a
many-
whole lot of different.
How many students, is it through the city school
No,
district?
it's through Isaac
See, this
Heating.
is where we have failed in.
Well, this is after you
vocational.
graduate. Yeah, this is after you graduate.
Again, after you graduate.
Yeah.
But if it was in the schools, just as a college prep is in the schools, then, which it used to be, then they could come out and maybe they were never equipped to go to college, but they were equipped to do a skill that those that went to college couldn't do. And unfortunately, they're left with nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something that, and we'll try to get somebody here to talk about the transition that Edison went through, because that was,
Well, I think we have to push for it in our city schools.
they're working on it, you know.
There's a
Over,
lot of
when
talented
you were over at your previous job there, Oasis, half the teachers there had come from Edison
Yeah.
because they had cut back on a lot of the programs at Edison, partly because somebody, I don't know if it was parents or somebody in some higher mucky muck, thought that, gee, kids should really be preparing for college rather than,
Well,
trade
MCC
schools.
took
And you
it.
really need to have things for all students depending on what their
That's
what their
I'm
backgrounds,
saying.
what their
And it used
interests
to
are.
be. It used to be.
Yeah, and that's what they
then
used to
we
have
failed our children
over
a lot.
at School 16, which you should try to go over and look at sometime. When Ralph Spezio was the principal there during the 90s, 17, when he was principal there during the 90s, he got buildings added on to the school so that they had a medical center there and dentistry, all part of wraparound services for the kids in this very poor neighborhood. And he went to Edison to get a lot of that construction done because it was such a good place to find young people who had skills. And, we need to get that back up.
Put that down, that we try to figure out how we get good vocational training in our schools
Okay.
for children.
It's on the
who are
agenda.
gifted.
It's on the agenda,
It's on the
okay?
agenda for
All
next
right,
week.
I mean, and I think it's great you're doing it. But it should be part of our public school system.
Yeah, it is, but,
No, it is not, but it used to be.
I'm gonna say something.
Yes,
I've been
please.
here, And I've been in a lot of meetings, and I'm not saying I know, but I know one thing, we all live for city school district. And the one thing that I believe that we all should be on one accord, looking for the right thing for our youth and our teachers. You may be thinking one way, but when it comes to the end, we ought to be able to put all our ideas together and work some things out. Some things I may say you don't like, some things you say I may not like, but at the end, we can work together.
And we're the big people.
yeah.
You can do it.
And most folks, let's love one another.
So, is there anything else that anybody wants to bring up?
Can I plug?
Oh, yes, by all means, my apologies.
That's okay.
All right, Alicia did send an email regarding, there's on the 29th, which is Saturday,
Yes. So,
Garth Fagan.
yes, Garth Fagan, there's an opportunity through the Black Heritage Committee for the City of Rochester for adults to attend a performance of Garth Fagan dance for $25 and to register youth to accompany them at no cost. So the tickets for adults is $25 and the tickets for the youth, the access for youth would be at no cost. So you would have to go to the City of Rochester, one of the offices, and I'm going to tell you in a minute, as soon as I pull up that email, at City Hall to do that registration. And then online, there also is a portal online in which to register. But so you should contact Caroline Coleman, and she's the legislative aide for Council President Loretta Scott, and she's a member of the committee that is spearheading that project to get students, to introduce them culturally to dance through Garth Fagan, but the adult must accompany them, and the adult ticket has to be paid for by the adult.
And you talk about a famous African-American from Rochester. He is world-known. There would never have been a Lion King without Garth's choreography there. So we have a lot of famous people here.
Okay, and you had something to cover, I believe.
One quick thing. So 4-H is piloting a program called Ag Literacy Week. It's a program in which an outside educator comes in and teaches a lesson on farm to table to kids in the all over the county. So I wanted to open up this opportunity to you guys. If you have teachers within your personal networks, within your professional networks who might be interested in having an outside person come in and teach a lesson on farm to table, I have more information here if you wanted to follow up about that. So.
Is it something that would be suitable for a farmer's market or an outdoor venue, or is it something that has to be in a class, should be in a classroom?
So this program is specific to second grade classrooms.
Okay.
4-H offers other programs, so I can give you some general information.
Food Link could probably do it.
Food Link,
You
yep.
might want, Dorothy does food here,
Okay.
so you might want some of these.
Yes. I will pass these around to anyone interested.
They need to have a few down there.
John, we came in at, I think, like agenda item 6 pretty much, and then we, did go back to 5, but are there any things like with the dates that were mentioned in items 1 through 4 before we came in, anything like major that?
No, what I had mentioned was the Rochester Coalition for Public Education's meeting with Abansky on 3/2, and primarily to look at what might the teachers union still have that they could do to help reduce the cost of, get us through this budget crunch.
Is Harry Bronson?
Harry Bronson, they got together with him on the 19th. I wasn't able to go there because my knee was acting up and I was on crutches, but I'm waiting to see the minutes from that meeting. But he's been very supportive of all the stuff we've been pushing, so, and everything I've heard sounds like, that continued. The thing that he's been doing is trying to point the coalition in the direction of do things that other politicians in Albany will agree with, because everybody has their...
It might be good if people that are involved in this know that he's been helpful.
Oh, yeah.
Given the fact that the Dems or Bush Udelson.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay, that's a good point.
politics anymore, but still,
Yeah.
he's been very helpful.
Oh, he's been great. I thank everybody for coming here today, and I'll send out a copy of this agenda again so you've got all these links to look at, okay?